How's it going, film and TV fans? Welcome back to another review on the Film Nerd Reviews channel, and the next part in our sort of, look back at Marvel's 2021 and so far 2022 projects. So basically everything that I haven't managed to do, which has built up considering they put out a lot of projects a year. Obviously we did Loki yesterday, which I had a lot of fun going back to, but alas we have to move on to some of the weaker MCU content, and this movie happens to be a part of that branch. It's definitely a weaker movie in the MCU. I think it's definitely not my favourite from Phase 4. It's definitely nowhere in my favourites. I actually think Thor: The Dark World is a more entertaining movie than this one is, which, let that one settle in. I find it hard to... I compare this one most likely to the first Thor movie because I think the story there is just terrible, but I think this does have some positives, some pretty good positives to it, I think, personally. I think while Johansson is very boring and bland as Black Widow here, I think she does have some really good scenes with Florence Pugh's Yelena, and I think those two have the best chemistry of everyone in the movie. I really like Alexei as well, played by David Harbour. But obviously the best part and the reason why this movie is even watchable is genuinely just Yelena, because she's fucking awesome in everything. So yeah, that's the best part of this movie. I think, there's a lot of wasted potential here. The Taskmaster, completely wasted. The great actress who plays her in a Bond film, completely wasted because you don't even notice her half the time. Ray Winston is just, why is Ray Winston in this movie? I get it, but he's trying to do the Russian accent, he just sounds like Ray Winston. So it didn't work for me. I think everyone doing Russian accents except for Scarlett Johansson, it doesn't really work either way. I think it's just a movie that is not too good. I think, again, the thing that people point out the most is there are some really, really bad effects in the movie. Green screen budget and the green screen, some really bad green screen stuff. And I agree with, I think, again, the story is just boring and bland. The only thing keeping the movie going, like I said, is characters like Alexei and Yelena, who are both the best characters in the movie. Also, there's a character called Mason in this movie that I really like as well. He's really cool. But again, a lot of people believe this movie should have come out back in 2016, 2017 time, just before Infinity War, which is when this movie is set. It's set after Civil War, but before Infinity War. And yeah, I think there was potential because Black Widow definitely had a lot of story potential seen in Age of Ultron. There was definitely potential for this movie to be a nice kind of spy thriller, akin to almost, dare I say, James Bond, but it just fucking ruined it, really. Like I said, the visual effects are not very good here. The costumes are just kind of generic in a lot of places. It's not the worst movie I've seen, but it's definitely not one that I'm hearkening to go back and watch ever again. In fact, this is my first time watching it since it dropped on Disney Plus, and my friend stupidly bought it when it first came out. So yeah, obviously there's a whole different set of things surrounding this movie, specifically with Johansson and her lawsuit regarding this movie and its original theatrical release, which, if you don't want to know, here's a little bit backstory on that. The movie was, delayed quite a bit, shall we say, and I think it is one of those things where it caused a lot of issues for a lot of people. So essentially, it was originally scheduled for May 1st, 2020, which is why you see in this trailer where it says May 1st. This is an older trailer. When picking these trailers for each of the Marvel projects, there's usually 2 to 3 trailers per project. Some only have one. The Disney Plus shows usually only have one trailer, but the movies have 2 to 3 trailers. Eternals did, Spider-Man did, this did. So I had to pick the best trailer. And in some cases, like Spider-Man, because they were so hyped up and important trailers, I'm using both trailers for Spider-Man. But yeah, the issue with this here obviously is that it was originally scheduled for release in May 2020, you know, but obviously COVID-19 it happened, so the release date was obviously the first one to be delayed by the pandemic was Bond, which shifted from April 2020 to November 2020, and you know, Black Widow was one of the, you know, was one of the ones to be, you know, early delayed. You know, it originally, you know, it was saying it was originally going to take the place of Eternals, which was supposed to come out in November 2020, and then both ended up being delayed to exactly a year after they were originally supposed to premiere. I think Black Widow came out in June in 2021, but Eternals kept that November 2021 date. You know, obviously it was originally supposed to come out in November 2020, so you know, it still kept the November date. The film was released, the trailers were released and stuff, and I think another thing to do with this movie that I particularly like talking about is the issue that I have with the movie, and that's the music here. The music in this movie is an issue for me. I think it is, other than the piece you're hearing, it is just very generic, and I think that's reflected on the composer they chose, which was Lorne Balfe, who is known for just being, you know, he's a composer that at the moment, when I think about it, high highs and really low lows, because looking at his discography and you're looking at the music for the movies he's done, I mean, the most recent movie he's done music for was Ambulance, which the music in that movie was fucking horrible, I can't lie. I mean, and you know, he's done the TV series The Wheel of Time, which has had so many fucking releases, it's beyond believable. And again, and then before that, it was the TV show Dopesick. Black Widow, again, this movie has subpar generic music. Tomorrow I haven't listened to it, but it is probably just generic music. Bad Boys for Life was actually, had some decently good music in it. So did Six Underground. Gemini Man had good music. Again, Mission Impossible Fallout, some of his best, I think. But you go further and further and back, and you've got stuff like Skynet Superchargers, which is okay, but Terminator Genesis, which is completely forgettable. You know, it's just like, he is a composer that really flips between really good and fucking horrible. And clearly it was obviously a case of him being pushed last minute, because if you do not know, it was revealed in January 2020 that one of my all-time favourite composers, Alexandre Desplat, would be officially joining the MCU and scoring this movie, you know, Black Widow. But, you know, late in post-production, Balfe replaced Desplat, which Desplat confirmed in May of 2020, so within a couple of months they'd switched over. And I think, well, obviously, it, much like a lot of other movies like Bond, which had a late composer change with Hans Zimmer, from Dan Rowan with Hans Zimmer had just under 4 months to compose, had under 4 months to compose the whole score to the movie, which in a rush deadline he did a really good job with. I imagine the same thing here with Balfe, although he was given 5 months opposed to 4, because the change happened in January and the movie was originally set for May 2020, and it was done for that date. It's not like they had more time to do it after, as much like with Bond. Bond was ready for its date in April, and so both Zimmer and Balfe had completed their work on each respective film before, so they'd really rushed it out, and then they had, you know, the delay that caused quite the issue when it came out, because in July 2021, Scarlett Johansson filed a lawsuit against Walt Disney, because while it was released in cinemas on June 29th, 2021, it was also simultaneously released on Disney Plus with Premiere Access for $30. And this caused Johansson to file a lawsuit, because according to her, the simultaneous release of Black Widow on Disney Plus and in cinemas breached a stipulation in her contract that the film received the exclusive theatrical release. The suit stated that simultaneous release exempted Disney from paying very large box office bonuses that Johansson would have reportedly been entitled to. So basically, she was suing them because she didn't think she was going to get enough money from the movie. And I remember when this happened at the time, there were a lot of people saying this is just the rich suing for not being able to be richer. And I think I can agree, but at the same time, you know, they needed to put the film out a bit a lot of movies around that time had been severely affected by the same issue. You know, a lot of Disney movies, but also most cinema releases, some of which have only just come out at the time of recording. Top Gun was supposed to come out in 2020, and it's only just premiered recently, like a couple of weeks, literally last week. So it's an issue that hasn't entirely been resolved. Not all movies that were delayed by the COVID pandemic have come out, and I don't think we will see that until at least 2024, 2025 at the minimum. But don't let that affect anyone's opinion of the movie, because eventually it was, you know, as with nowadays in the Disney Plus release stuff, especially with the Marvel movies and that, like that, they still release them on Blu-ray, DVD, 4K, blah, 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 but I don't see anyone buying, and I don't see the need to buy any of them unless there's a really good one. You know, like, I probably will end up, I've bought Spider-Man No Way Home on Blu-ray, I probably will end up buying Doctor Strange because I really like that movie, but movies like this and Eternals, I have no reason to buy the Blu-ray because I don't like them, and if I want to watch them, I have them on Disney Plus already in 4K Ultra HD. You know, an example of this is that literally, as at the time of recording, I've just received my Mission Impossible 6-movie 4K Ultra HD box set that I ordered the other day, and yes, I'll be using this to review all the Mission Impossible films after this Marvel stint. And yeah, I've got this because there is no platform currently hosting the Mission Impossible films in the UK, at least. I don't know if they're on. They might be on Paramount Plus, which hasn't launched in this country yet. But yeah, it's just an issue where I think Black Widow is a movie that everyone clearly cared and tried, and I think there was a sense of trying to make it work, but they were given maybe not enough budget, I don't know, or not enough creative control, because it feels like the script is just really weak. Like I said, there's some really bad effects here. The story is not fun. The characters are just, they do have a family dynamic, but it's really boring, and I really am not a huge fan of this movie, unfortunately. There's not much more I can really say other than this movie isn't looking to, you know, isn't one I'm going to go back to ever again, really. I've reviewed it, and unless I come back to review all the Marvel stuff in 6 years' time, if I'm even still doing reviews at that point, it's a movie I don't want to really watch ever again. I don't think I will, unless, you know, I get really fucking bored and there's nothing else I want to watch, or I feel like watching a shit movie because I want to feel better about my filmmaking skills, which is still shit anyway. So yeah, it's just a movie that I wouldn't call it shit. I would call it flawed. I would call it very just generic subpar action film, car chase, fighty violence with some decently choreographed scenes and some characters that have some great moments. There are great moments in this movie, don't get me wrong. This is not a terrible movie. It's just a movie that is just incredibly, horribly flawed, that I have no, you know, real reason to go back again. And it's been an interesting journey. I have a Black Widow poster on the wall because when I saw it in the cinema, I did see this movie in the cinema. I got a free poster, so I stick it on the wall. It's really not one of my favourite movies. I'm glad I saw it in the cinema and everything, because cinematic experiences is my favourite way to experience a movie. No matter what the movie is, I live for those moments sitting in a cinema seat watching a film. You know, and I can respect Tom Cruise for that exact same thing, for keeping back Top Gun for so long. I can really respect that. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. This has gone on for too long for a movie that I don't particularly like. Thank you so much for watching my review of Black Widow. I will... Again, Thorpe is out tomorrow, so go stream it. The single, Nemesis Inferno, is available now. Please, 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 if it's the last thing you do, go stream this movie. Go stream the music, because it's some of my best stuff. Oh well. Yeah, go stream it when it comes out, please. Again, new music, the podcast is coming. New episode of the podcast is coming on Friday. Stay tuned for that. And thanks so much for watching my Marvel reviews. And yeah, bye bye for now.